Good morning to all, and welcome everyone here and those online too. We have 182 packs, while here we have 132 esteemed guests. My name is Emily, and I will be your MC today. Alright, I will be quick. I am proud to say that I am a neurodivergent, higher by project differentially abled that was launched 10 years ago. 10 years ago, passed by in a glimpse, and now, here I am. Ladies and gentlemen, so, what brings us here? This is to mark a decade of impact after Gamuda started this initiative. And of course, sharing on the best practices for corporates to create a neuro-inclusive workplace. Also, to provide insights on effective approaches in building a neurodiverse ecosystem for sustainable employment. Dear participants online and offline, as the event proceeds, please feel free to fill in your questions in the Q&A chat box. And for those here, you may put your questions in the pigeonhole link via the QR code, as the screen will show you later. We will respond to you. Please also scan the e-booklet for speakers' profiles, the agenda, and the forum information. Some kind reminders. Please silence your phone. Try not to move around when the speaker is speaking, or you'll miss the juicy bits. And please, feel free to ask questions and interact with us. The washroom is on your right. And for those looking for the stool and the nursing room, please liaise with our EA team for assistance. Now, sit back and let us take you back 10 years in 10 minutes.
In Gamuda for 10 years. I started working in the beginning of March 2014.
10 years from March 2014 to now.
Okay, I'm in Gamuda for exactly 10 years, since April 1st, 2014.
Well, it has been 10 years working at Gamuda Building. I learned how to communicate well with my colleagues and my superiors.
Wow.
I like my job because I am able to earn enough money to support my family. My mother has retired, so I am the breadwinner. Also, I like my colleagues because they are friendly and helpful.
Well, about my buddies, usually who has been patient with me since with my condition due to my autism and my epilepsy, and they've been helping me since with my career and especially with my work.
Okay, my job is not too far away, able to get there on time, and also it's a comfortable working environment. And also it's work that I'm able to do and can do.
Going out for birthday celebration.
I'll say during the times when the company had those festive meal times like Hari Raya, Chinese New Year, Deepavali, or Christmas, time when I'm able to mix around with the colleagues more often, some from other departments. Besides the camaraderie.
The first art jamming that made it popular until today. And then especially the Autism Awareness Week when I first started my art jamming, and that back in 2016, and that was the best thing in what I did before. But originally the idea came back was in 2015, early 2015 when it was started. Well, the happiest moment that sometimes I had a Chinese New Year lunch party and it was a wonderful gathering. It was a lot of fun out there. Well, maybe every year it was like that.
Okay, I would say that it's a friendly, supportive environment with colleagues who are understanding and friendly and help me out with my work if there's something I don't understand, and also emotionally support and also an understanding as well, because I do have my behavioral quirks as some of the other DA colleagues as well.
The one thing about Gamuda's work environment is they accept me for what I am.
Good vibes, good companionship, harmonious surroundings, yes, and good words. Compassion, inclusion, non-biasness, and also companionship and tolerance. Most of my job coaches, and especially my buddies that have been helping me so far.
Zulkifli, Laila, Jaya, Jessica, Kareem, Kokong, Chongke, Matthew.
I thank my boss, Dr. Lin, for starting this journey for us, my supervisors, colleagues, job coaches, and the DA support team.
Our first speaker should be a familiar name in the news due to her stellar record. She is the head of Yayasan Gamuda, project manager of Gamuda IBS, and also an executive director of Gamuda Engineering. With that, let us meet professional technologist Lim Hui Yan.
Good morning. Thank you, Emmeline. Super overwhelmed with that very nice introduction. I'm sure your coach has done an excellent job. Thanks, Fu, as well. Good morning and welcome everyone to join us in this esteemed Neurodiversity Forum. It is the second year that we have this large event and we hope we can continue every year. It's very glad to see familiar faces here in joining us to celebrate a decade of impactful strides in understanding and later embracing and championing neurodiversity, not just for workplace, but across society as well and communities. First and foremost, maybe just a very short background. You have watched the video just now. We started Project Differently Able in-house 2013 and later on started with Enabling Academy to provide job transition program across industry, and now we are proud to say we have 118 EA graduates across 50 partner companies. And it's important for me to mention that, all our partner companies are across industries, because when at least for myself, when I joined Yayasan Gamuda, when I start leading Yayasan Gamuda, actually many industry players out there thought that, hey, Gamuda is doing this just to serve the construction industry. But little do they know that, we are actually serving very little our construction industry through Yayasan Gamuda and Enabling Academy. It's more across industries, because we know that's where the greater impact will lie. Before I proceed further, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our job coach, our team at Enabling Academy, Grace, our job coaches. Not to forget, a big thanks and big applause for all of them. Allow me to learn from Kelvin in the video to mention a few names. Mr. Hong, Sulam, who couldn't join us today, Kat, Min Mei, Tak Ming, Lai Ling, and all of you here. Imagine it is very difficult for us to champion neurodiversity in today's world. More so 10 years ago when we started Project Differently Able. So well done to the team, and thank you very much for your effort. Certainly paid off, right? And representing the group, we are committed to make more meaningful impact. Another decade, who knows, right? This Neurodiversity Forum has very simple and straightforward objective. We want to heighten awareness. We want to tell people the best practice. How can we create a better neuro-inclusive workplace for all and create a robust neuro-inclusive neurodiversity ecosystem? It's our privilege to have very experienced speakers fly in and join us online today. Hiren, Tracy online, Vicky, and also our colleague Vicky, to share with you what we have. Today, representing Gamuda is not any corporate leaders or so, because we certainly do not want to tell you more about what we do at a corporate level. I especially requested my colleague Vicky to join us to share his own stories. So the point that I told the team to tell Vicky is that don't script anything, right? Just tell me how your experience so far and how we can do better for everyone involved. Thank you once again. I would not take too much time. It's more important to hear from our speakers. I'm excited and looking forward to what you guys are going to talk about later. And thank you once again, and join us for another decade of meaningful transformation that's to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hui Yan. What an inspiring speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we are really privileged and honored to have our next guest all the way from the United States to deliver the keynote speech on the future of neurodiverse hiring. He will be moderating the panel session as well. Who is he? Yes, you may have seen his face in our email blasts, banners, and posters, right? He is Hiren Shukla, EY's young Global Neurodiverse Contest of Excellence Leader. Hiren has 20 years of experience spanning across the fields of accounting, strategy, automation, innovation, and information technology. Now, let us welcome Hiren.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Hiren. Yeah, I will just take a short time. I have an announcement to make. This car number is VCM 1806. Yeah, you need to move your car. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Hiren. Pass back to you.
No, thank you. That's probably a more important announcement than mine anyway, so. Good morning for you all in the room. Good afternoon, good evening for those of you online. As this amazing introduction that I received, thank you. Often my wife and kids also say, "Who is he?" Because I travel quite a bit, and I'm so honored to be invited to be here with you all today. Let me ask you a very important question. Have you ever heard the phrase, "Great minds think alike"? Have you heard this phrase before? So 10 years ago at EY, we have contemplated a slightly different question. What happens when great minds don't think alike? That question has been with us for 9 years as we've been on this journey to think about the amazing potential, the untapped rich talent that today resides with autistic and neurodivergent individuals around the world. It is estimated today that about 500 million individuals around the world are neurodivergent. 500 million. That's probably a conservative number. And when we think about the opportunities that they all have, 85% of this population is either unemployed or underemployed, meaning they have higher capabilities. They want to perform and have work that they're capable of doing, but yet the only opportunities for them would be something that maybe they're not so happy doing. So, when we think about the question of great minds what happens when great minds don't think alike, this is what I would ask you to ponder. What if the cure for cancer, solving world hunger, and the solution for climate change was inside the mind of a nonverbal autistic individual, and yet those solutions are under our noses in our society, and yet, as a society, we have failed to access that potential. The world can become a much better place when we include everybody. One of the things that I'm so proud of Enabling Academy in Gamuda, it takes champions to do this work. It takes stamina, it takes endurance. This is hard work for all of us, the parents in this room and online. You know the hard work that it takes. Most other people do not know or recognize this. And so, I ask you, are you a champion? Are you a champion? Yes, you are all champions being here today. Together, we're going to make a difference in the world. Malaysia, Enabling Academy, is a shining light. It's an inspiration. And it's really something for us to now pick up the momentum and follow. What I'll talk to you about in a moment is the crisis of purpose that I had 9 years ago when I wanted to do something more purposeful with my own life. I wanted to do something that made a difference, that inspired my children, that my family would be proud of, and that when I was no longer here, would make the world a better place. I see Gamuda Enabling Academy doing that. And I would venture to say each and every one of you also want to do the same thing. Because at the end of our lives, none of us are going to say, I wish I would have worked more. None of us are going to say this. We're all going to say, I wish we made a difference in the world. Do you agree? Okay. So, let me just tell you a little bit about EY. EY is a global professional services firm that has been around for 140 years, I think. Somebody will have to correct me on that. 350,000 people in 700 cities and 150 countries around the world. Massive organization, right? Should private organizations, businesses, corporates, do they have an obligation to the communities that they live in? Yes. Do private organizations also have the capabilities to make a massive difference? Yes. And so the journey for EY started, let's see if I can get this right. No? Oh, there we go. The journey for EY started when I became quite concerned, disturbed, that 20% of the world's population has an invisible cognitive difference. How they socialize, how they communicate, how they learn, how they think. And unfortunate for this invisible condition, most of this population is untapped. And so we started to ask some important questions. Do companies today already have neurodivergent individuals? Yes. In fact, in many cases, and as we know, in many Asian cultures, we don't talk about certain things. We would not say this to somebody else. Oh, I'm autistic, I'm dyslexic, I'm dyspraxic, I have ADHD. We would not say these things, right? But the answer is, today, workplaces already employ neurodivergent individuals. They're already there, but they are struggling in silence. We also know that new research at the bottom, if you'll see in red, is now telling us that 53% of the Gen Z population, those that are 12 to 27-year-olds, 53% of Gen Z identify as being neurodivergent, autistic, dyslexic, dyspraxic, ADHD, dyscalculia, dysgraphia. Neurodivergence, as we know, often doesn't also sit in an individualized state. Many autistic individuals have a high correlation to ADHD. We know this now. So what if we thought about the whole person? What could we do if we gave every person what they needed to be successful at work? Do you think companies would gain benefit from having extremely loyal, extremely engaged, extremely creative individuals? Yes, I think corporates would love to have that. Do you think that individual, as we saw in the video from those 5 individuals, do you think the individuals would feel safe? They would feel valued? I was watching that video in fascination. Who would not want to work somewhere where it was friendly, it was supportive, you felt like you belong? How many of you want to work at a place like that? I think all of us, right? We all want to work at a place where we can be ourselves. The world is changing rapidly, and what our mission is at EY is to engage corporates around the world to say, your future of your employees, of your workforce, of your customers, of your communities is neurodivergent. And if we are not paying attention to include them in our workplaces, we are going to miss out. So, I am the founder of EY's Neurodiverse Centers of Excellence. And effectively, what started in March of 2016 as an experiment, as a pilot, I was speaking to some of the early Gamudians, is that how we call it? Is that the right term? who are the champions and pioneers in this space. And many of us said, when we started, we had no idea what we were doing. We had to figure this out. We had to Google things about autism. And in fact, even what was on Google wasn't complete. Much of what has been perceived in the world about neurodivergent individuals is about disabilities and deficits and negative perception. All of the beautiful benefits they can bring to the workplace has been left out. And so when EY's motto is, we are going to build a better working world, we're going to build that better working world for everybody. And so the Centers of Excellence that started with 4 people as a pilot in March of 2016 today exist in 23 cities and 13 countries around the world: Japan, India, Costa Rica, Brazil, Spain, Poland, the UK, the US, Australia. And it's so engaging to our own employees, the 350,000 that I told you about. You know how excited they are to see that we are actually making the world a better place? And I was listening to the discussion on that Enabling Academy. You have buddies at Gamuda, right? I think the buddies often feel so much pride that they receive so much value from being a buddy. And so giving yourself an opportunity to have purpose in life, even when you go to work, even when you are a tunnel manager, Vignesh, is that the right thing? I have no idea what a tunnel manager is. We'll find out later, okay? But having purpose by working with people where you can help them and they can help you is a beautiful thing. It's amazing that at EY we were able to measure the amount of value we're creating in the world. $1 billion in value that has been created strictly from working in the space of neurodiversity. $1 billion with a B US dollars. This is not something that we were trying to do. It was something that happened. And then when we get recognized in the world as very much is a result of the hard work of Enabling Academy and Gamuda, who have already partnered with us here in Malaysia to do some very important work, we realize that together we can make a real difference in the world. So let me just keep going for a moment. So, I'm speaking directly to corporates right now. Hiring neurodivergent talent will solve labor shortages, it will spark innovation, it will create tangible ESG value. You've heard of the environmental, social, and governance focus. Many corporates are figuring out, how do I do this? How do I create value? We're saying, here it is. We're telling you exactly how to do this. And so if you value neurodiversity, autistic individuals, dyslexic individuals, dyspraxic, ADHD, you can have access to all of this beautiful word cloud that's there, which we know, whether you are an F&B, whether you're in hospitality, whether you are a technology firm, whether you're an engineering company, each company is thinking about what's in that word cloud today. But let me tell you, not everything is easy, right? So remember we talked about the hard work that gets done? When you look at some of these challenges on the right-hand side, these are very real challenges. And so when we work with companies, as EY has engaged some of the biggest, brightest companies in the world and also here in Malaysia, we have to make sure that leaders know that you have a duty of care. You are responsible for the employees that work with you. And frankly, when we talk about our dyslexic, autistic, neurodivergent Employees, employer, are you ready to honor your duty of care? Because these things that we're talking about, communication barriers, misunderstandings, not everybody comes to work and sits at a desk quietly and does their work and then they just go home after that. Sometimes we have challenges at work, and we have to make sure that corporates understand this is not going to be an easy journey. You will, in fact, hear from some of our panelists later who do tremendous work in this space, helping corporates move along. Frankly, this is what the job coaches at Enabling Academy have done for us and the individuals that we have helped corporate hires here. It's really hard work. And again, parents, family members, you know that Enabling Academy, EY, especially Sterna, all these different companies you'll hear from are helping you to tap into the empathy and compassion that should be available for all of us, not just one or two of us. We're not asking for charity. Let me say that again. We tell businesses, we are not asking for a charity or a handout. We are telling you that you can drive transformation if you're willing to support the challenges and figure them out. So, as we will move to the next slide, in 2021, the World Economic Forum took 1 year to research EY's model. They asked us for data. They asked us to prove to them, did we have a model that could be replicated by others? And in 2023, we were honored in Davos, Switzerland, as a global lighthouse designation. And what this means to you all is this is publicly available. This is on the internet. So how corporates can create a sustainable, scalable model, the framework for that, not the detail, the framework is documented. And part of the reason I'm mentioning all of this is how many times have you heard or you have felt personally yourself, I want to do good in the world, but I don't know how. And corporates say this all the time. Top leaders will say, I want to make a difference in the world. I want to create a legacy. I don't know how. And so EY's mission has been is to show others exactly how you do this. And we don't do this by ourselves. I've mentioned to you a few times that we have helped companies here in Malaysia launch their own neurodiversity models. And our partners, many of them are in this room with us. And in fact, Enabling Academy is one of our key partners of how we do this together. So, anytime you hear, I don't know how to create value, I don't know where to start, please direct them to this site and please send them to us, because we would like nothing more to say, if EY has done this in 23 cities and 13 countries around the world, so can you. So, employers, what can you do? Where do you start? Let's get tactical. Let's get specific. We know that if we start from the left, let's first talk about neurodiversity, autism, not just from a deficit standpoint. Let's recognize the strengths that people have. And I know one thing, the loyalty, the commitment, you will probably not find a more hard-working individual than in the autistic and neurodivergent community. They work really hard. Education, is another key. I know that Enable Academy runs workshops for corporates. You raise a lot of awareness. I'm going to ask you all to do something when you leave here today. And I ask this every time, so those of you that were with me earlier in the week, you know what I'm going to ask. I need you to leave here today and tell at least 5 people who are not in this room, and for those of you online, I'm asking you the same thing even though I can't see you. You need to tell 5 people about what you've learned today. Because if we don't spread the word, who is going to? If we don't educate, who is going to? So there is a sense of urgency that I ask from you. When you leave, you're going to tell 5 people. Could be your family, it could be your friends, could be your co-workers. But that is your homework. For those of you that have not been in school for a while, that's your homework. Creating inclusive culture. You know, we talk about our gender, our age, maybe our cultural differences, but cognitive diversity, autism, that is a form of cognitive diversity. We need to make sure we're inclusive for all. And as we go down, adapt your recruitment processes. EA teaches corporates how to do this. EY has been working with corporates to say, how do you do this massively at scale? And talk about this in your companies. Talk about this in your communities. And again, the worst thing that will happen is we don't talk about it at all. And we know, again, from an Asian cultural context, sometimes it's not appropriate, but changing stigma is really important. It's going to take all of us to do it. Last but not least on this slide, if you look at the bottom, everywhere that EY has gone around the world, we have created the same ecosystem. It's called the neurodiversity ecosystem. It's businesses, it's governments, it's the education sector, it's skilling boot camps like our friends at Infinite Minds here in Malaysia that do amazing work in training others. It's NGOs and nonprofits. And it is directly speaking to the public. It could be the ADHD self-advocacy group. It should be autistic individuals that have a voice in what's happening. It should be parents that we're speaking to. Because if, for my 3 daughters, I would be wanting to know who is really committed in taking care of them. So if you are not part of that ecosystem, if you don't know where to start, 1, speak to our friends at Enable Academy because they were part of the workshop that we did earlier this week. Speak to EY. We are going to build an absolutely amazing neurodiversity ecosystem here for the country of Malaysia. It's not if we're going to do it. I'm telling you, we're already doing it. We need you to be an active part of that. Okay, so last slide. And then we're going to open up for questions. And please think about your most difficult questions because those I'm going to ask Grace to answer. Grace doesn't know this yet. The easy questions I will take. But we'd love to hear from you. Employers, here is your call to action. Support the community. And you can support the community by talking about it, by raising awareness and education with your own employees. Talk to your customers about it. Go to university when you're there to speak to them about it. And stop thinking about it and start doing something. Corporates, your brand, your voice can influence change dramatically. And we need that voice. And lastly, be a disruptive voice. And you know what this means? We cannot be quiet anymore. We cannot just say this is nice work that we do. And oh, how nice, Enable Academy does this work. What about you? What about us? What about our customers? What about our employers? we have to change the perception and the stigma that unfortunately still holds many autistic and neurodivergent individuals back. The last thing I will say before we open up for questions. So last year I received my ADHD diagnosis. I had no idea. I jokingly say my wife knows why I make her crazy now sometimes. But, you know, when you have a chance to understand yourself, you then realize, this is who I am. And accepting that and being proud of that is really important. So, with that said, and let me just keep a track, we're okay on time for questions, yeah? Okay, so, I don't know if there's any questions online yet, but I don't know if somebody's monitoring those, and if they are, they can let me know. How about if we start in the room? I'd love to hear your reactions and thoughts to this, specifically as we are creating the demand from business, demand from corporates. It doesn't matter if it's an F&B job or a hospitality job or working in retail or you're working in an office doing something. It doesn't matter. We need all employers to step up. So, I don't know if there's any mics in the down here, but let me pause. I'd love to hear who has a comment or a question or a thought here. We have one. Yeah, let's see. We will work to get a mic over to you.
Testing.
Hi, good morning. My name is Roger Ong from Feruni. We have a colleague that is working for last 7 years now from Gabuda Enabling Academy. His name is Hon Kit. So my question now, you mentioned that 50% of managers do not want to hire. So for the other 50% who choose to hire, they maybe just accommodate this colleague. But I noticed that during lunches, he sits alone. Of course, socially they are not very adept at talking, right? So when they go out for lunch, they don't include him. So do we need to put a structure? You are talking about inclusiveness. How do we do that? Because with people who are socially adaptable, it's easy, right? But how do we structure that so that he'll be called along, to any events or any gatherings, or even just a one-to-one or a group lunch? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking this question. This is obviously a real situation. This happens all the time, and sometimes why I really appreciate this question, because many of us think it, we don't actually ask it. We don't know what to do about it. So I would say two things. One, we have been very intentional and deliberate to ask each person what they want. Do you want to come out? Maybe they don't, okay? But number one, we're always very careful. Is just because the whole team is going to lunch, maybe that person doesn't want to go to lunch. So one, we have to give people a choice, and we can only give them a choice if we ask them, right? And then if they say, no, I don't want to, then we just have to respect it and leave that. Just like autistic individuals, each of us know what we like and what we don't like, right? So I think having that respect is number one. But two, I like your question because there is a structure that you put around this. I know that our friends at Enable Academy, like at EY, we talk about support circles. So we say, is there a buddy assigned to this? In fact, some of the buddies from Gamuda are here today. They've played this role to say, are we remembering to be inclusive of that individual, even if they look on their face or they act like they don't want to. We should still ask them. Buddies do an amazing job. There is a structure that gets put in place. You don't need many buddies. You just need one buddy. Somebody who is a consistent person doing that. I think between the buddies, the job coaching, like Enable Academy offers and others, I think that there becomes a way to allow that individual to decide how he or she wants to participate. But if we don't designate the buddy and say, oh, would you like to be a buddy? And I will tell you, when we started our program at EY, we had more people raising their hand to be buddies. We said, there's too many buddies. We only want one buddy for each person. But you'll find that people at work, the team members, employees, they're looking for a chance to connect with another human being. They're looking for a way to do good work. But your question is very appropriate, because if you don't put that structure in place, loneliness, we know, is extremely detrimental to mental health, right? Sometimes I choose to be lonely because I maybe there's too much going on in my head, but other times I want to be asked. And so I think putting that buddy system in place, making sure there is some level of job coaching, because the instances that we've seen that don't work out is when a company attempts to do something very good. They say, we will hire these 3 autistic individuals. But then there's no support structure put around it. And I think that becomes very difficult to sustain. So thank you for asking that question. How about others? Even if you don't have a question, I'd love to hear your thoughts and reaction to this. Oh, we have a question over here.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. So my name is Nisha, and my partner, my colleague Amiro, we are from Standard Chartered Bank, and we drive the diversity inclusion space. Specifically, for the both of us, it's more from the disability end. So now, I think it's part info and part question. The first bit is the fact that Malaysia, at this point of time, is still very much fixated about the day of when we celebrate something in corporate worlds. So, hey, Women's Day, and that just ends there. I mean, it's the same with, that's when, right before April as well, conversation. Let's do a webinar. Let's get that going. Let's call people through. But what we've done is, in terms of going beyond just the global date, and said, okay, now there's a framework to it. And we've got teams across China and Poland where the government itself have mandated, saying that you need to have the quota in. So that's like a forced thing of going, you have to. With Malaysia, probably the government sectors, yes, there's a certain percentage, but not for the corporate world. And we were at that point speaking to leaders going, do we mandate it? And then you be happy with 5% or 2% and that's it. Or do we then say, no, let's not mandate it. Let's open it up and normalize the hiring. But what happens when we normalize the hiring? Nothing happens. So yes, I see resumes. Yes, I look into a lot of interviews, but it sort of, ends there. And then probably like yourself, being diagnosed much later, are then the headcount that they use, versus saying, I intentionally hired somebody within the neurodivergent space. So my question to you is, do we go back to our leaders and say, yeah, mandate it, at least we get that 5, or no, drive that awareness a lot more, but probably wait slightly longer for some results to come? I know it's complicated, I'm sorry.
No, it's a great, Nisha, right? Yeah, thank you. Great question. So, it's very interesting when we think about April as Autism Awareness Month, right? October is Disability Awareness Month, right? And we say, oh, we're going to celebrate this month. And Anisha, as you say, what happens on May 1st? It's not like the autistic population has gone away. We've not solved the problem. So we also think about, when is our job done for disability inclusion, for inclusion overall? And my argument is our job is done when we do not have to talk about this anymore, when business as usual, we hire everybody and anybody, not because how they behave in an interview process. And unfortunately, we know most interview processes today are behavioral based. I have to speak and convince the interviewer that I know how to do the job. But we are done in our jobs when hiring of all kinds of people. For many years, it was the conversation about gender, and still is about women. Do women have the same opportunity as men, right? And so I think that my answer is, when you said, do we go back to our leaders? I think raising the sense of urgency. Some of the data points I was giving you earlier, like the 53% of Gen Z identify, and I think about Standard Chartered. If I were speaking to one of your leaders, I would say the banking experience is going to have to become neuro-inclusive, because those will be your future customers. They're the ones that are going to be looking for a loan, including an autistic individual. And if you do not shape the banking experience for that person, you are not going to get their business. So you see, I'm now deliberately raising the sense of urgency for our leaders to say, if we are a company of 100,000 people, 10,000, 5,000 people, then let us proportionally ensure that our employees represent the communities that we live in. The autistic community, the neurodivergent community needs fair representation in that same workforce. And until we achieve that, and again, I go back to, we know 20% of the world's population is neurodivergent. That means at least 20% of our workforce should be. And I think the danger, as Nisha, you've rightly pointed out, is there's so many days of celebration that sometimes many people, and one person told me very directly, he was a very passionate manager, and he said to me, Hiran, what month is it now? Because I cannot keep up with this. So we've done ourselves a disservice. The disservice is that we think showing up once a month to a celebration, is it? But I think the fatigue that some people feel, look, are there different communities? We talked about the physical apparent disability space. There is an entire section of the visually impaired or the deaf or hard of hearing. But we're all here talking about autism and neurodiversity, right? I think one more thing we need to do is to separate someone's medical diagnosis. Am I autistic? Am I dyslexic? Am I visually impaired? Am I hard of hearing? That is a medical diagnosis. But does that represent my capability? Should that be a label that someone says, oh, you're autistic, therefore you can only do A, B, and C? I mean, we watched those 5 individuals who celebrated their 10-year anniversary. They're quite capable. And it would be a shame if we were to pigeonhole and label them with their medical diagnosis. So, I think we have time for one more question or one more comment. So, any good ones here? Yeah? Thank you.
Okay, hello, good morning everybody. My name is Nur Fazlim. I'm from Tashenggu, Sendirian Berhad. Thank you, Hiran. I don't have any question. Maybe I just share some experience. I do have a neurodivergent staff under me. So I think we as the line manager, we need to have empathy when you are handling a neurodivergent staff. When you have empathy, you will have all the due considerations when you are handling them and managing them. Okay, and on top of that, sometimes neurodivergent staff, they are capable to do more things than what you think that they are able to do. So you must give them the opportunity. You must give them the ground to prove themselves. And you need to give them the support system as well. You need to give them the trust. Just give you an example. For the first semester, when my neurodivergent team member joined me, his name is Ian. So at the first, he was supposed to be doing data monitoring of transactions. But some of my colleagues did not provide him the avenue to do the data monitoring analytics. So I wanted to give him some comfort. I said, Ian, you are good in Excel sheet. Why not you help me to do some roadmaps for a program for the Association of E-Money Issuer? So I give him a hope. I give him the opportunity. And he proved him that he can do it. And I think this is already the second semester that we have extended his contract with us. And now he's also helping me in terms of approving for the request of approval of expenditure for the company worldwide, in the company global-wide within Touch and Go itself. So he's also now able to communicate effectively with all the stakeholders in the company. What are they supposed to do? And on top of that, I'm also giving him some opportunity to go for the next forward, that he is now able to go and handle external meetings with external stakeholders, not within my department itself. So I allowed him, I give him the opportunity, I give him the trust. And if, let's say, if there's any discrepancies or any weaknesses on his side, I make sure the external stakeholders reach out to me and let me know what is the issue, and I will correct him. And from time to time also, I will communicate frequently with Grace whenever I have some issues and how to manage the neurodivergent stuff. So I think we need to have empathy. Being a leader is not about job per se. You must have a sense of care and passion when you're dealing with this type of special people. Because in my experience, also in my personal life, I do have nieces and nephews who are autistic, and most of them is actually very brilliant. Yeah. So you must give them the opportunity. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you very much. Really well said. By the way, I think we found our next year's keynote speaker. As she was backing, I thought, okay, I should make room on the stage here for her. Okay, so last thing I'm going to say. Some of you heard me say this the other day at a workshop we were at. I'm not Malaysian, but I'm very fascinated with a particular word. So I know when I was speaking to people in Malaysia, I would say, can we do something? Can you get that done? And they would say, can. You know what I'm talking about? So the response is can. But I understand there is a Malaysian word for this. Boleh? B-O-L? So I'm still trying to figure out how to use this word, okay? But I'm going to ask you to clear your throats, because I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And after each question, I need you in your loudest voice to say, boleh. Okay? Can we make a difference here in Malaysia? Can we be a shining star for the rest of the world? Can we make a difference for the lives of people who need our voices? Thank you.
Thank you, Huron. What a fascinating sharing. You should be on TED Talks. Ladies and gentlemen, next up is our panel session. More valuable insights shall be shared by our renowned and distinguished panelists from United States and Australia. We will have Tracy tuning in online. We also have our very own Gamudayan Vignes to share his perspective. Hyman will introduce them further. A quick reminder, all participants, please kindly put up your questions in the Q&A chat box or the Pigeonhole QR code for those here. And please vote for the best question, because the highest voted questions will have a higher chance of being answered. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move some chairs up here. Tracy, one of our panelists, is dialing in virtually. Should we do a quick check to see if Tracy can hear us and respond? So Tracy, if you can just say hi and hello to us and good morning, so just make sure that everybody in the room can hear you. Tracy.
Good morning,
All right, let's see.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Now Tracy has her own music too. This is amazing. All right, let's just give it a shot, and then Vicky and Vignes, can I have you all come up? So instead of me introducing you, I'm just going to give you the pleasure of introducing yourselves. So please have a seat. All right, and all right, so let's just give a pause for a moment. We're going to see if our online panelist is there. Tracy, when you are ready, please say a few words.
Good morning, Karen. Good to see you again.
Oh, Tracy, we can hear you well. Thank you for joining us. Hold on a second. I don't know why. Maybe we're all too close to each other. I'm not sure. Or maybe it's that. Okay. I think that's better. A little bit? Yeah? Okay. All right. Wonderful. So in today's panel discussion, you get to hear from three amazing panelists, two that are with me here and one that's online. So maybe without further ado, Vicky, we can start with you for an introduction. No? All right, here we go.
Testing. Hello. Thank you so much, Sharon, and thank you so much to Gamuda and the Enabling Academy for having me here today. I am Vicky Little, National Manager for Quality and Practice at Specialist Stern Australia. Specialist Stern is a global company across about 26 countries now. We essentially like to consider ourselves as disruptors, as Hiran put it. We like to enable organisations to really understand the benefits of a neurodiverse workforce and to put that into action. And so we enable organisations to think about the recruitment process and how they do that differently and really disrupt everything they know to be true in regards to recruitment because of the barriers that exist there. And a lot of our focus now also is to help organisations create neuro-inclusive workplaces, so the practices of which they're conducting themselves to be making sure that everything is done through a neurodiverse-friendly lens. I've been working in the space of autism and employment for about 17 years now. Started my career working at the National Autistic Society in London, in the UK. And as I'm sure you can imagine, back in 2006, it was a very different space. And I was remarking about how I started my career in this space calling organisations to explain what autism is and that it does in fact continue from childhood to adulthood and to beg people for a work experience placement. Now, I'm proud to say of what we achieved there in terms of the changes that we made in the UK market with the likes of Goldman Sachs and BT really leading the way. And then that led me to returning back to Australia, where once again had to sort of push the agenda and help organisations really understand the benefits of autistic talent. And then that's led me to where I am today, working at Specialist in Australia. So I'm really passionate about this space, obviously, and I'm really grateful to be here today.
All right. Well, can we have a round of applause, please? Vicky, before we move to Tracy, who we're lucky enough, I don't know if you know, is right behind you. Vicky, are you saying in 2006, when you were calling employers, was it a shock to them that autistic children grow up to be autistic adults?
Yes, there was, unfortunately. And isn't it strange to say that now? But yes, that's where we were at in terms of understanding as a society. Some people understood it because of their connection to autism, and obviously as we speak about the champion, so there was always a champion that you could find, someone who understood. But for the most part, our role was really to educate and just really raise awareness not only about the benefits of autistic talent in the workforce, but the lack of understanding about the barriers that exist in the recruitment process.
Okay, wonderful. We'll get into the barriers in our first piece. But Tracy, we can all see you now. You're quite large on the screen with us, just to let you know. But could you do an introduction for the group as well?
Thanks, Karen. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
My name is Tracy Pavarotti, and I'm the Vice President of Corporate Engagement for Integrate Autism Employment Advisors here in the U.S. We're a nonprofit that basically helps companies identify, recruit, and retain neurodivergent talent. I also have the great good fortune to be one of the co-authors on our book, The Neurodivergent Candidate, Recruiting Autistic Professionals. Prior to joining Integrate, I ran Northeast IT organization for what was a company called MCI Telecommunications. I then went on to join a global executive search firm when my daughter was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which was the default diagnosis used back then. Then I read about a program that Integrate was running, and reached out to our president and founder, Marcia, and volunteered my time. And as she likes to say, be careful what you wish for, because I've now been with the organization 12 years. And I've had the unique experience of having both my daughter diagnosed, then my father, and then I was diagnosed 3 years ago as autistic as well. So I'm thrilled to be with you. Sorry I cannot be there in person.
Tracy, thank you very much. Let me just do a quick check. Are you all able to hear Tracy? Or is it, yeah? Is it okay? Perfect. Tracy, could you just tell us where in the world are you dialing in from today?
Tomorrow I'll be heading to New York, which is why I'm not there.
New York, I think. Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I think up here, for some reason, the speakers are out there, so for us, it's a little bit harder to hear. But yeah, let us know, okay, if you're having a hard time hearing Tracy. Clearly want to make sure that you hear all the great things that she has to say. Vignesh, last but not least, please, an introduction.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Okay, myself is Vignesh Waran. You can address me as Wiki, actually. But for today, you can address me as Vignesh, okay, to avoid confusion. Okay, so myself with Gamuda Engineering for almost more than 11 years, be part of tunnel team, and I'm as a tunnel manager right now for Gamuda Berhad Singapore branch. And of course, I'm today to share my experience with Adam, one of my colleagues. So, neurodivergent colleague. That's it. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Big round of applause for Vignesh and Tracy. Thank you. Okay, so let's, Vicky with you and Tracy, let's get into something. You have had lots of experience working, both of you, in different corporate environments with different sizes and shapes of companies in all different sectors around the world. What are some of the challenges that you see today? Vicky, if you want to go first, and then we'll go to Tracy next.
Thank you. So I do have notes so I don't forget anything, so I might refer to them, I might not. I might go off script completely. But I think the top thing, and it has been mentioned already, is lack of understanding. I think that's the most common barrier, and that's a behavioural change that needs to happen. It is understanding what neurodiversity is, and as we've said, I mean, I love the word neurodiversity in itself. It's a celebratory word. I love that when that came to be part of our language, is that it's celebration of difference and different brains and, you know, the way that we all think differently and how beautiful and beneficial that is. But there is lack of understanding, which comes from fear of the unknown. So if you don't know much about autism, like I mentioned before, those original calls that I made back all those years ago, it's this sort of, what goes through your head is fear. So what autism means to me in my head, if I don't know much about it, is the stereotypes or the misconceptions. And so that is a behavioural change that we're trying to make in terms of building understanding. And so I've seen it time and time again, and that's why we believe that training and capacity building and education is the key. And that is what needs to happen absolutely everywhere. There needs to be mandatory training at managerial level, because if, I say this very often, but the strongest indicator of success of a neurodivergent employee is an understanding manager and empathetic, like it was said before from the audience. That is it. So if you take the time to understand your employees and understand how they learn, how they communicate, how they work, that is how you support autistic and neurodivergent employees. It is simply just good communication and good management practice. So we do a lot of training to sort of, you know, bridge that awareness and make sure that that capacity is built. That's one of the things that we do. The lack of executive buy-in, we've discussed before, is a huge barrier. So it is, I've seen it time and time again, if there is not buy-in from that executive level and someone saying, yes, we are doing this, regardless of other hurdles that will come up, because needless to say, they always will, there will be hurdles, then it's seen as an initiative that can be deprioritised. It becomes something that might be pushed to the side, not as important. Executive buy-in means that it will come about, and you also need an internal champion. So that executive buy-in may not be the internal champion, but it needs to be someone on the ground pushing that internal agenda. And that might be someone who is saying, you know, it's that conversation at that executive level, saying, this is our why. As an organisation, this is our why we value neurodiversity and why we are doing this. That's critical. And that goes back to your messaging about, you know, it is 1 in 5. You are already doing it as an employer. If you're an employer, you are already hiring a neurodiverse workforce. So that's now part of the messaging, is that it's not this sort of separate initiative that needs to happen over here in the diversity and inclusion department. It needs to become business as usual because you are already doing it. So we look at helping break down the barriers in recruitment and workplace practices. There's 2 more. Identifying the correct role and team. I think there's often a barrier there. So a lot of managers say to us, but how do I know what the right role is? Or how do I identify that? That once again, it's about finding a specialist partner, like Specialist Stern, Enabling Academy, who can enable the organisations to understand what is the right kind of role, what's the best team. And I've said this is sort of the 3 factors that I think are the most important when considering that. So the role itself is important. Obviously the technical match is important for the individual, but just as important is the environment and the manager. They are the 3 factors that lead to a good match and finding the right role. So we educate staff on obviously finding the right match based on those factors. And then of course budget. So unfortunately, in our space and in the work that we do, it is a sort of, like I said, it's a diversity and inclusion budget that sits on the side. What we're trying to help organisations understand is that it shouldn't be. It should come from the C-suite. This is that executive buy-in. It should come from HR as something that you should be doing as business as usual. And if you're not doing it, then you're missing out on the talent.
Okay, thank you, Vicky. Lack of manager empathy. lack of leadership buy-in, lack of understanding the importance and sense of urgency, lack of figuring out what role somebody could be in, and then lack of budget. Well, those are pretty strong challenges that are very real, that we will then talk about how do we overcome this. And we're really lucky, Vignesh, when we get to you after Tracy, you have actually solved some of those problems by participating and playing in that role. So, no pressure, Vignesh, but everyone will be on the edge of their seat waiting for your answer. Okay, Tracy, what else other than what we heard from Vicky would you like to add as challenges that you've seen in the workplace?
Not surprisingly, my response would align with what you heard from Vicky. I think what I would add there is that we also see success, and I answering the question about challenges with where we see best practices and success, but we see success when there's a program manager who is focused on the program success in the organization, and that person is given the responsibility and accountability to implement changes across the organization. And we also see success when managers are given the opportunity to be involved in the initiative and are not voluntold to be involved in the initiative as well. The other thing that I would add there is that we also see success where companies allow for an assessment of their current hiring and onboarding practices with that neurodivergent lens, and then they've been trained around concepts like the hidden curriculum or executive function challenges, and have incorporated the appropriate neuro-inclusive strategies into those processes.
Tracy, thank you. You know, what really jumps out to me from what you said right now is sometimes this feels like a very separate program, and we say, well, company, you should really think about your entire process, and is it neuro-inclusive? Because, by the way, when you go to university or other hires, you're already coming across autistic, dyslexic, ADHD, neurodivergent team member. Are you even neuro-inclusive in your overall process? So, thank you, Tracy, for that. Vignesh, I think you have a very unique perspective playing the role of a manager, working with a neurodivergent individual. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how that may relate to some of these challenges that you've heard from Vicky and Tracy.
Hi, Ren. First of all, I need to answer your question. So, what is the role of mine as a tunnel manager? Yeah.
Oh, the tunnel manager question. We've all been waiting for this, right?
Okay. So, no matter as a tunnel manager or tunnel engineers, we are very proudly, we are very proud if we address ourselves as tunnelers. So, our duty here is to construct, of course, tunnel from the ground, and of course, when we heard about tunnel, and we might think that it's a risky job. Okay. So my main duty here is to make sure that the execution of construction of tunnel, but at the same time, I need to make everyone safe. That means when they come into the site and they go out from the site, they are safe enough with everything they have. So as my colleague, Adam right now, he is when he comes to interview, the first expectation of mine is, and the first thoughts that on my mind, that whether I'm able to keep him safe at my job site. So in that sense, I make a move to make sure that my expectations on him, everything is been met off, and at the same time, I always remind myself, I want him to be safe, because he is in the live construction project. So, as to relate with Tracy or Vicky, the process it takes time. It's not like you are dealing with a person who are very expressive and able to voice out immediately whatever they have of problems and so on. So for me, the approach to deal with Adam is I make sure that I keep reminding him day by day as progressively he can remember on what is the task that he should do, and he should have his own to-do list to get it done and make sure that obviously he's safe at the construction site. Yep.
Wow. Vignesh, it's so nice that how you talk about your duty of care, which is safety for not just for Adam, it's for everybody. But I like how you've added at the end, you may need to remind Adam for a few things, right? Because that not only helps him to do his job, it helps you to do your job. And by the way, for all of us here, if this is not empathy, then I don't know what is. Can we have a round of applause, please, for Vignesh? Vicky, let's come back to you for a moment, and Tracy. So as you both talked about the challenges, and in fact, maybe we'll go in reverse this time. Tracy, we'll start with you, and then we'll come to Vicky. You've obviously worked with a number of companies and the neurodivergent individuals in the recruiting process. Can you talk a little bit about how you have helped the neurodivergent individuals kind of prepare and expectations and things of that nature to maybe overcome some of those challenges of just getting in the front door? Tracy?
Integrate's an employer-focused organization, and by that I mean that the corporation is our client. So our model is a bit different than, say, Enabling Academy. We don't actually have a roster of individuals that we are working with and then find a job for. Our focus is creating that neuro-inclusive environment within a company, and then we source candidates for that company as what we call it a headhunter or a recruiter would do. We find someone who has the requisite job skills for that open role and who is neurodivergent. And we have heard that some companies struggle to find this talent. I'd say that our director of recruiting and her staff have done a really good job of establishing relationships with organizations like Enabling Academy, but here in North America where we are focused, along with colleges and universities and support groups and practitioners. So our application process is actually a multi-step process that allows us to assess if a candidate is work ready and will be successful, and we believe they'll be successful as long as they're working in an environment that is autism friendly with a well-educated manager who is strategic and effective and thoughtful in their communication. So we also provide our clients with a detailed onboarding summary of any candidate that they hire. And then once they're hired, we meet with the managers and or the mentors on a weekly basis to help reinforce all the training and learnings that we've delivered to them. So in essence, we feel that we are helping the candidates by coaching the managers.
Tracy, thank you so much for that. I love the comprehensive nature of what you're doing, kind of following through from the candidate experience, and then now you're an employee. And I also wanted to call out that you're doing some level of assessment. Is this workplace and is the individual ready for each other? Now, you're not making that final decision, but you clearly have some expertise that you use to help guide both the neurodivergent individual and the company themselves. So you're making the job matching process and the experience a little bit better. Vicky, what about you? What type of practices that you see work in this space to overcome some of those early challenges?
Yeah, I'd echo what Tracy has said. Specialist Stern operates in a very similar way, where we source the candidates for the businesses that we're hiring for. And then we take the candidates through what we call our patient practical approach. This is our assessment, our practical assessment, which replaces the interview, also replaces the resume, because both of those are examples of barriers within the traditional recruitment process that is not accessible. It's not neuro-inclusive. The interview is just an assessment of your communication skills and your capacity to be likable and build rapport in a very stressful environment. The resume itself also does not represent the cohort of people who are experts in their area of interest, who are at home honing their skill in their area of interest and the value that they will bring to the workplace. So we remove those barriers by returning it into a practical assessment. We work with the hiring manager or the line manager to develop a practical assessment where the managers can then see the candidates put their hands on a task, see how they problem solve, see how they work to time, see how they work as a team, see how they then talk about how they resolve that problem. We do that through our assessment centre, which is also filled with other developmental sort of workshops for the candidates, which works to that sort of job readiness aspect. So enabling the candidates to build up the skills that they might need. And the feedback that we hear from the candidates is, because we build in what we call our Understanding Our Autism or Understanding Our Neurodiversity workshop. That might be the first time that some of those candidates have sat down and thought about how their autism or their neurodiversity is a positive for them, and the strengths it brings them, and the value that they can bring to the workplace because they are neurodivergent. And so with that, they build a profile that they can take into the workplace that says, this is how I work best, these are my strengths, these are the sorts of adjustments or accommodations I might need. And so just that activity in itself enables people to understand and celebrate their autism or neurodiversity. And so with those activities, like Tracy's also mentioned, we add in the environmental match. So the other aspect that's not necessarily included in traditional recruitment is just that. For the candidate to see the environment, so for them to get a sense of how bright it is, how busy it is, what's the culture like, how noisy is it? And so that match is critical. Like I said before, it's just as critical as the technical match. And so we add that in through sort of a version of a bit of a on-the-job trial where they can meet the manager, maybe sit in on a team meeting, do another activity if need be, but it's just as important. So we feed that in there. And like Tracy said too, and I've mentioned before, working with the manager. So we don't place people in an environment that is not autism or neurodiversity friendly. We make sure that they have the training and the capacity, that the team is equipped, that profile is in place so that the manager understands the individual that they've hired before they start. And then we offer on what we call enablement support in the workplace after they've been hired, which is for the individual, the successful employee, and the manager.
Yeah, the comprehensive support that I'm hearing from both Vicky and from Tracy, if I'm honest, I would like that. I think each of us would like that kind of support. The other thing that jumped out to me is when you talked about kind of the environmental match, and Vignesh, I thought about what you said at the beginning, where people are in this area where they're building tunnels, they have to be safe. Imagine, I don't know if I would feel safe doing that, and for then that may not be a good job for me. But last thing, Vignesh, before we come to you, and a question that I have, Vicky, you hit on a couple of key things. Is your CV representative of who you are? Does the CV tell the whole story? So if someone looks at my CV, they say, I know exactly who here it is, and I know exactly what he's capable of. I don't think this is fair for any of us. How many of you have also participated in a meeting and an interview where you feel like there's tremendous pressure because you are being evaluated? It could be in school, it could be for a job. How many of you ever felt stress or anxiety from being in that type of a spotlight? I think many of us, right, say, oh my God, I feel uncomfortable. these people are just looking at me and they're expecting me to answer all these questions. So thank you, Vicky and Tracy, for those pieces. Vignesh, so here is a very interesting question for you. You and Adam are neighbors. You live close by to each other, and you travel every day from Johor to Singapore. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
So every day you're traveling together back and forth.
Yes.
I'm so interested in this. You know why? There is such this perception around autistic individuals, and maybe they don't socialize and things of that nature. Maybe you couldn't be friends. By the way, I have many autistic friends, some that I actually get along with more than my non-autistic friends. But Vignesh, I'm curious, what type of memorable experiences have you seen in this journey of getting to know Adam so well and him getting to know you?
Good question, actually. I would say that right now, when I'm traveling of course, I'm traveling in a day basis to Johor from Johor to Singapore. So I'm spending more time with Adam instead of my wife or my kids at home. So in the beginning stage, when we start our works together in our KL office, I always find a way to break the barrier as a superior or his buddy, but I like to be his friend. So it applies the same. When last year we were in Singapore for the tendering job, I have an opportunity to stay with him in the same house, even in the same room. Okay, so I get to know him in detail on how's his behavior, and any behavior changes time to time, and he breaks my initial thoughts on him that I thought that always a neurodivergent person is a dependent kind of person, and they are not talkative, they are silent, they are shy to ask for help or questions. But when I stay with him, then I get to know that I'm dependent on him instead of he dependent on me. Even I get more, that I gain weight more when I go back home. Then my wife's asking me, hey, why? And I say that Adam is cooking well and feed me well. So jokes apart, but I think that is the part where I'm able to break the barrier. There's a moment that I break the barrier with him, that he is there for me and I'm there for him. So when we decided to travel from Johor to Singapore, I think that's the major decision from Adam, and I get along with him. So since I'm bringing my family over to Johor, and Adam, obviously the family is on and off visiting him. So he make a proper plan. He make a plan A, plan B, plan C. So usually in work, I will always ask him to come up with a plan. So what is your opinion? What is your plan? So explain to me. I always give an opportunity for him to talk, because that's the way I need to break his silence. So when he is throwing his plan, although it meets our requirement or doesn't meet the requirement, doesn't matter, but that makes him to speak out what he feel, and he feel appreciated when we listen to him. And he always says that, thank God I have a listener. So sometimes people always try to ignore these kinds. I won't say kind. I will say that a person's thoughts, especially from neurodivergent person. So that's the moment you come to plan A, plan B, plan C. Okay, plan A is public transport. Okay, what is the benefit, the cost-wise, and how's the time? Then it goes to plan B, car. Plan C, motorbike. So and he tabulated the risk. What's going to happen to you if motorbike, if car? So I say, oh, this is like a risk assessment. But at the end of the day, he managed to persuade me to go for one plan where I stick with him. So that's why I said, come back to you, Hiran. Actually, just now you said that whether we can show, we can bring out their strengths and show it to the publics or show it among us. So that's the matter right now. I believe how we want to mold and show their strengths. Let's make it better.
Yeah, Vignesh, you have just given us all and online a master class in empathy. Another round of applause, please, Vignesh. And Vignesh, you said something in there in the middle that really is compelling to me. You have built trust. Adam trusts you that he could use his voice and say things because he knows you're going to listen to him. And this is the basis of psychological safety that we talk about, that we all want. If anybody wants to begin traveling with Vignesh and Adam, there'll be a sign-up sheet in the back afterwards, okay? Thank you for sharing all that. Tracy, if we could come to you for a moment, and it's kind of a two-part question for you, Tracy. One is, what have you seen as the most useful, effective workplace accommodations as you've been working, as you've seen with others? And I say you've been because the part two of the question is, there is a component here of neurodiversity that is more personal to you, if you would like to share any of that, and where you have seen the discovery of your interest and your hobbies and things of that nature. So workplace accommodations for yourself or for others, and then part two, from your own personal standpoint, kind of what that journey's been like. So Tracy.
Late in life, while I was working for an organization that was all around neurodiversity. And I've been working there for well over 10 years. So I'm probably the only person who's ever had the experience of disclosing to a colleague, in this case our COO, and have them shout with glee that that was fantastic news. And then he immediately asked what it was like, and the experience of kind of, and Karen, you may have had this as well, kind of playing back the videotape of your life with an autistic lens or a neurodivergent lens, and a lot of things make sense. I am a very successful masker, but it's exhausting. But it's something that I do, and I do well. And I was really lucky earlier in my career. When I was working for MCI, that everyone else that was working there was really serious about their work and really serious about building a successful company. And they appreciated my dedication and focus and commitment to what I say is my and our mutual success. I don't know if I would have been successful somewhere else. So as I say to our clients and to our candidates, it is truly always about fit. And I would say in terms of how, what I think, would be important for like Gamuda or another company is asking for feedback from its neurodivergent staff, right? Based on the statistics that you shared earlier, that Gamuda and other companies are already employing these individuals. They just haven't felt necessarily comfortable to disclose. So I think more important, the specific accommodation like noise canceling headphones or an alternate work environment, or allowing employees to have their Outlook calendar on their personal phone and devices. It's really truly about creating a neuro-inclusive work environment with neuro-inclusive colleagues, and most importantly, neuro-inclusive managers who speak thoughtfully, directly, and strategically. And you asked me a little bit about my experience in terms of discovering my interests and strengths. And when I was talking to Grace the other week about the conference, one of the things that I said was, I think this is interesting as it applies to my daughter, who is autistic and on her career journey as well. And when she was young, I wasn't sure what her future would look like, or that would she be successful? And I will tell you now that she is successful. She graduated college with honors. She lives with a roommate in New York City. I don't do that. She works for a Fortune 100 company, and she only graduated about 3 years ago. And I would say I credit her success to, first and foremost, early intervention, which obviously, is something that Enabling Academy is all about. Getting her support with occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. And then there were just two other things that I'd share there that I think were really critical to her well-being, was helping her develop the skills to advocate for herself and the ability to manage her emotional status in terms of mood regulation, which can be hard for individuals with ADHD as well as autism. We use something called DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, and I know that there are organizations in Kuala Lumpur that have expertise in that space, but we learned mindfulness and interpersonal effectiveness and distress tolerance, as well as emotional regulation. And it was not only life-changing for my daughter, but it was life-changing for our family. We all took the course, we all engaged in that, and we all still use those skills. So that's been really helpful. And I think the only other thing that I want to highlight here is that, when it comes to career choice as parents in the room, I would stress that it doesn't have to be a static thing, right? And with autistic individuals, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. My daughter was a theater arts stage manager, but she's not working in that space. But she's getting experience that will ultimately serve her in meeting her career objectives, which she wants to work in advocacy now as well. And I'd add one other thing. As a parent, you tend to want to remove every obstacle in your child's path. We try to, whenever we can, to consult to the environment, is what I call it. And the problem is, as our children grow up, we cannot always do that, especially if we want them to be independent. So learning to navigate, the obstacles is a critical life skill, and starting that earlier in one's life, when your children are children, is probably a best practice from my perspective.
Tracy, thank you for sharing all that. There's a couple of things, Tracy, that you said that really jump out to me. And, it's interesting, Tracy's unique perspective as a neurodivergent individual, as a practitioner, and as a parent of a neurodivergent individual. And as Tracy, you spoke to the parents here in the room and online, it is not an easy journey. Lots of concern that you have when your child grows up and is out in the world, and are they safe? I hope today you feel a little bit safer, because there are weaknesses out in the world. There are people with high empathy who really care, who understand, who will contemplate the risk of taking a motorbike at times, right? And it is a journey. Tracy, thank you for sharing that with us. We really appreciate it. Let me switch gears. I want you to hear some success stories. And Vicky, I'm sure that there's like one that is memorable to you that I'd love for you to share with us, because today is about hope and excitement. And remember, I told you that you're going to have to take this out and tell 5 people? These are the type of notes you're going to have to take. So, Vicky.
Thank you. Is it possible to squeeze in more than one?
Go for it.
There's been so many, and I'd hate to sort of just pick one. I think in terms of one of the initiatives that I've seen that's had a strong ripple effect and really started, I suppose, a ripple of change in the Australian government. So it's a Victorian state government called the Department of Health and Human Services. DHHS is what they were called. They're now called DHS. They, in 2017, conducted a program that they called RISE at DHHS, and you can Google it. There's been some papers written about it. they decided that they wanted to hire a cohort of records managers, management. And so, sort of document controlling work. They wanted to digitize their documentation, basically. And you talked about digitization before. They hired this cohort. We did our work in partner with DHHS to turn the work into something very practical, where candidates could show what they could do, and we gave them time to do that, because that's how a lot of autistic people thrive, is when they're given time to understand the role, time to understand the nature of the environment, get to know the manager. So that's our process. We did that, and DHHS hired a cohort of records management clerks. They were so successful, they were told that they could have an error rate of 10 to 12%. And I kid you not, this cohort didn't settle for anything less than 0.05% error rate in their work. We're very proud of them. But the story continues in that they are still there today. Many have gone on to move on to other roles, other departments. So there's that career development aspect. But just recently I found out that one of them just bought his own house. Wow. And so that story of those individuals, as we know in Australia, is very hard to do, by the way. So that's incredible. The personal story. The manager, the champion of that program, then went on to champion other programs. Like I said, that RISE model has been carried on to other Victorian departments and continues to be a real success. So that's a real one that I really love. In terms of personal stories, we worked with Westpac many times actually in Australia. We've done about 3 recruitment programs with them. There's a gentleman who I want to talk about, and his manager. So he was the eternal academic, I suppose. He'd done a couple of degrees, couldn't get a job, couldn't get past the interview. He came through one of our first programs and could show what he could do. The manager himself said to us at the beginning, he said, look, listen, I understand what you're trying to achieve here, but I'm very apprehensive. And we spoke about this on Tuesday, the apprehension that people come with. But he said, I'm coming on the journey because I know that there's value in this. And he did. And so he came through the program. He selected this gentleman in a role of cybersecurity within the organisation. And he then saw, he was allowing him to move through the process. This young gentleman needed some support to be work ready because he'd never worked before, but obviously he'd studied. And so he gave support from us to be work ready in that regard. He came in a little bit sort of, not sure about how to come in on time and all that sort of stuff, and he got there, but the manager was understanding. He was like, I get it, I'm here for this, and I'm willing to support him. So that understanding manager piece was critical. Within the first 3 months, this gentleman solved a system-wide issue that had been sitting there for 5 years, and he to this day doesn't know how he did it. He just looked at the problem slightly differently and said something, and they all said, oh my gosh, we think you've solved the problem. And so he then quickly became subject matter expert. He got a promotion, and he's still there today in the role in the cybersecurity team at Westpac. The best part of that story is that the hiring manager, at the end of the 12 months of support that we offered both him and the gentleman, he turned to me and he said, hiring this young man is the best thing I've done in my career. And so we can see that journey of apprehension to acceptance, and he then went on to become a champion at the next job that he went to, and the value, Westpac has continued to tap into the value of neurodiverse talent. The final sort of case study that I want to give is, and you can look it up as well, is called the Aurora Neurodiversity Program at Services Australia, which is a federal department across Australia. They set a goal, not a mandate, they set a goal to hire 7% neurodiverse workforce, and they've achieved that through a number of different assessment centres, bringing people across the organisation, all across Australia, and continuing to have ongoing training available. And yeah, we're really proud of the work that they've done there as well. So,
wow, amazing, Vicky. When we talk about value to the business and it was success, like that individual solved that problem, but what a transformational life change when somebody buys their own house, they feel like they're independent. And when you see that, you're like, wow, that is transformational success that we all want to be a part of. So, Vignesh, let's come to you for a moment. from Gamuda, Malaysia to now Gamuda, Singapore. What are some of the key progress areas that you've seen in Adam? And then part B of the question, what's some of the best practices as a supervisor that you would recommend to others? And there's some amazing pictures, by the way, behind us. So you'll have to tell us about this. So please tell us about the journey.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce whoever in the picture. Of course, it's myself. This is Adam. On the other side is my superior, Mr. Joshi. Okay, so to your question, to answer your question, Adam is I mean that what I can see the progress in Adam is from the beginning until now, there's a drastic change on how he tried to bring himself. Okay, at a certain environment or certain circumstances to overcome the technical problems, even his own problems. So at the initial state, when of course as a person who are in a managing team, as a person who are managing a team, we want a best team to make sure that we can handle the work on time and deliver the job as it is. So when we try to spend more time to evaluate people's CV or people's personality in the team, why we give a bit more time to analyze a person's, which is neurodivergent person, and try to explore what really they can do. Nowadays, even it breaks the thoughts that a lot of neurodivergents are degree holders. Even like Adam is a master degree holder. So we want to break a thought of they only do a documentations or just a tabulations. They only suit for that kind of work because they work alone. No need to deal in a group. So first of all, I spend a longer time to really know what is the strength for him, for Adam. So I get to know that he's good in drawings, modelings, and he able to capture a small, a technical problems where we can't really detect it in our naked eyes, but he really can detect it in precise, and how he want to bring that to the environment, to the colleagues. So I give him an opportunity to we give him an opportunity to email it or to voice it out to everyone bravely and just tell what is the problem that you have identified. So in that sense, he, from being silent, he tried to be expressive, but of course just technical wise, and he tried to bring himself in a comfortable way where he can do the work. And right now I don't need to remind him anything. Sometimes he will be reminding me on 4:30 a.m. in the morning where I'm sitting in the bus. Sometimes I'm asking myself, I'm in the bus 4:30 a.m. in the morning to get to Singapore, and I'm preparing myself for the work. And he's reminding me, we should submit this document, we should submit that document, and how should we settle this, and so on. So I'll be reminding to Adam, please, we are not at the workplace yet. Yeah. So, that's the movement or changes that I can see him for past 5 years. Yep.
Amazing. How beautiful it is to, when you listen to this story, I don't know about you, I want to be part of that story. Don't you? So thank you, Vignesh, for sharing this and all the great pictures and how confidence is built in somebody when we give them a chance and an opportunity.
I would like to add too, when we are analyzing them, we know their strengths. So it will cut off two possibilities. The first one is give a wrong task to a wrong person. He is capable to do more, but you underestimate him and give him less. Second is, of course, we don't want underpay him. Because the initial thoughts that everyone has over here is, neurodivergent person can fill up certain role at my office, and when it comes to the at the end year or evaluations or whatever, yes, we put him at the side. But in Gamuda, honestly enough, we have our proper evaluations on this neurodivergent person. That's why you can see them growing with us together. Yeah.
Wow, growing together. What a beautiful way of thinking about it. Thank you, Vignesh, for that. Vicky, when you think about the ecosystem we had talked about earlier, when I had done my presentation, and you've heard a few times, growing together takes all of us. What are some of the crucial action items that you think need to be done to participate, to activate, to make sure that ecosystem is producing the outputs?
I think one of the most important concepts that we talk about quite a lot is the concept of universal design. Like I said before, being a good manager, an empathetic manager to a neurodivergent employee is not something that is more time consuming, more costly. It is just good management, it is an empathetic leader, it is good communication. And what is good for a neurodivergent employee is good for everyone. Tracy listed some of the adjustments that are very common and helpful. Noise cancelling headphones. I remember when I was working, once again back in London, 2007, requesting noise cancelling headphones was like this completely foreign concept that took weeks to action because nobody used them. Now fast forward to where we are. I mean, I'm not sure about your workplaces. Most people have the option to wear headphones if they choose. Flexible working from home. Thanks to that little old pandemic, we've been able to see a shift in understanding that that is actually just good for everybody. And it's universal design. So, the concept of captions, closed captions, was originally obviously, for people who visually impaired or people who are hearing impaired. There's all sorts of adjustments. These are all practices that are good for everybody. Sidewalk, path, the curb cuts in the footpaths on you call them curb cuts, so sidewalk, wherever you're from. That is universal design. It is good for everybody, right? And so we encourage organisations to create a safe place that is good, that is neurodiverse friendly. The way to do that is through training, like I said before. Without training, without education, you're not going to have understanding, and there's going to continue to be that fear of the unknown or that barrier that exists there. And so I think that awareness training at a leadership level is compulsory, whether it's e-learning, and it's not just in Autism Awareness Month, it is all the time. And number two, I'd say, has anyone heard the acronym ATP? ATP. Ask the person. Ask the person. It is that simple. You need to create the safe place first and then ask the person, because they may not feel safe to talk about it with you. They are the experts of their own experience. It is that simple, but they also need to feel like they're going to be heard from their manager, and that what they tell you needs to be put into action. They need to feel reassured that what you're hearing and what you're taking in and what adjustments they might need will be understood and will be put into place. So that's transparency about your accommodations process is critical. Other things have already been mentioned, like a support network. Yeah. You need an internal support network that includes buddies. Everyone needs a buddy. Every human needs a buddy, particularly neurodivergent individuals. And relying on what we call an ERG, which is an employee resource group, has different names across different countries, different organisations. It is a group within your organisation of lived experience individuals who are connected to neurodiversity, are neurodivergent themselves. They are the voice of your workforce. They are the ones to lean on, and that is a support layer that is internal for your neurodivergent staff. And obviously, you don't need to be experts in neurodiversity if you are an employer. Lean on the ERG group, the local support network, the local provider, so the likes of Enabling Academy and Specialist Stern have coaches who are there to assist. That is critical. So think, all the time I've been in this space, people always come to us and say, it's parents have said to me all along. I used to be a mentor. When I returned to Sydney, I set up a company that was basically mentoring individuals to find work and training. And parents would say to me, I can tell them how to find, what to do in terms of looking for work, but they need to hear it from somebody else. So can you please encourage them and help them find work? And that is the case. You need an expert job coach, someone who has expertise in autism, has the patience and understanding, who's not the manager, because yes, the manager needs to do a bit of that too, but there needs to be another layer of support through the job coaches, or we call them neurodiversity coaches. And yeah, I think just the final bit is understanding that you are already supporting a neurodiverse workforce. You are already working alongside neurodivergent employees, and so acting in a way, whether you know they are or not, you don't need to know labels. We don't need diagnosis. We just need to understand that everybody around us all thinks and learns and communicates differently, and to lean on their voices to be able for them to explain how they work best, and how they are going to thrive within their role.
All right, thank you very much. I think we may have lost Tracy, but Tracy's here. Okay, I'm sorry, Tracy, I didn't see you on the board. Tracy, any last thoughts or words before we close out and see if we have maybe time for one question? But Tracy, last word, please.
I want to share a success story, and it's kind of, it reinforces everything that Vicky just said in terms of building that ecosystem. We have a large bank that's a client of ours, a large global bank. We've been working with them for several years, and they hired a young man into their technology organization through us. And this young man was a very direct speaker, right? Very honest, very frank, as many autistic individuals can be. During the orientation program, which was like a week-long program for the bank, he was brought into a banquet room with a number of other individuals, and the instructor was going to give them an overview of all the bank products. Now, this young man is now being hired into a role in technology. So he goes up to the instructor and he says, "This has no bearing on the role I've been hired to do. I would rather watch paint dry than sit here." And he left the room. Now, because we had done training for the organization, because they were familiar, educated, informed, they were not outraged. They were not insulted. They did not require that this young man be disciplined. They went back and sat down as a group and said, let's look at the agenda for orientation. And they decided that the content that they were delivering in that portion of the orientation was not critical, did not have to be delivered in that venue or during that time. So as a result of this young man speaking directly and frankly, the company reviewed their entire process and realized that that change would be beneficial for everyone.
Wow. Amazing.
And Karen, the first thing you need to do, I think, is to create a roadmap. So if you're using Google Maps or you're using Waze to get you to your destination, you know where you want to go to, right? And you input that into the app. But you have to know where you're starting from. So that first review, that assessment that you mentioned earlier of the company, of the corporate culture, of the recruiting processes and onboarding practices with that neurodivergent lens, that informs everything else. So that's the other thing that I think is really, really critical in creating that neurodiversity ecosystem.
All right, Tracy. Wow. It's like the voice of God somehow. I don't know where that came from. Could we have a big round of applause for Vignesh, Vicky, and Tracy? So I think we're at the end of time. So do we have time for a question? Or yeah, one question? All right. So we need the hardest question you can think of, okay? The most difficult one. We're going to give that to Vicky, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But, we have some that came in online. Oh, my goodness. There's a number of them that came in. But let's talk about this. All right. Employment opportunities for neurodiverse individuals are higher in private sector. How do we encourage more participation in government sector? And Vicky, this may be right up your alley. What do you think?
That's a great question, and that's why I did mention some of those government examples. I think it's through the pilots, and then celebrating and sharing those stories as much as possible. I've mentioned a couple, so that Aurora Neurodiversity program at Services Australia is a government program. The DHHS, the Rise at DHHS, that's government as well. I think actually government, particularly in Australia, and there's some good case studies there, they need to share those stories more. They need to get out there and demonstrate the impact that they're having internally within the teams, so that the managers can see the impact and the value of those staff. I think the biggest challenge that we see in government is around changing systems that have been in place for a very long time and are often a little bit harder to budge. And that's why I think the demonstration and the sharing of success stories is the way to create that change. So we need to be hearing more from the government stories and sharing them as broadly as possible. In other countries, if you've seen, or perhaps in your own organisation, I think that once there is a pilot, we need to find a partner organisation that we can demonstrate a pilot within Malaysia, for example, if we haven't already got that, to then create the change and to say they're going to lead the way.
Thank you. Vicky, let me add a couple of pieces real quick. Governments are competing for talent against private sector. Who do you think is going to win that battle? When we're competing particularly for technology talent or even just permanent talent, private sector always seems to win over government. So the government sector needs to find new innovative ways of finding good and great people. I think in this room and online, we know a lot of good and great people, right? Number two, EY recently did a study for one of the 50 states in the US, just one. That study was, if you were to employ 10% of your person with disabilities population, you would create $1.8 billion in value, because you are now taking people who are receiving public support, and by giving them a job, what happens when you get a job? You pay taxes. You spend that money. And so we can create tremendous economic prosperity just by including people in the workforce. And so these are some of the ways that we are engaging with governments around the world to say, you will get new innovative talent and you will create value at the same time. How do you lose? So this is a fantastic question.
I will just, if I can just add quickly as well. So another example of where it's been successful in government is Transport for New South Wales in Australia, in the New South Wales Department. The reason for their success is, yes, they've celebrated the stories, they've shown the integration across the department, but it's that ERG, the lived experience group. They have a very strong representation of their neurodivergent workforce who work together as a group to change things internally. So I mentioned before that it's hard to sometimes create change to those systems that have been in place for a long time, but that cohort of people who are working there now are very proud to work together, talk about their neurodiversity, and slowly they're creating the change internally. So those internal groups are really, really critical.
Wonderful. So as you leave today, you have access to 4 new friends: Vignesh, Tracy, Vicky, and Hiran. Our contact information is in there. When you run up against challenges and problems and someone says, no, you can't do it, say, I'm going to call my friend Vicky. I'm going to call Vignesh. I'm going to call Tracy. I'm going to call Hiran. We want to help you because together we will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you to the panelists. Wait, please stay on stage. Now I'd like to invite Grace out for a group photo. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is now 12:12. Let's take a 10-minute break. And then I hope you will enjoy what we have prepared for you outside. But wait, don't leave afterwards because an exciting performance awaits. Welcome back. I hope you had a longer than usual yet relaxing break. Today we specially invited a Guzheng performer. This is Samuel, who joined Enable Academy in January 2023. Samuel has been learning Guzheng since he was 16 years old, and today we are honored to have him showcase his talent. Please give your full support for Samuel. No encore for this. Oh well. Thank you, Samuel. A musically elegant piece. Oh, it is 12:54. How time flies. With that, I'd like to invite our Grace Gunn, manager of Enable Academy, for her call to action.
All right, everyone, let's give a round of applause to our Emmeline again. Don't you think she did a good job? I think she did better than many of us, all right? I definitely can't do that. But today, really want to thank you, thank everyone here for making your time to be here and for taking interest in neurodiversity. I know there is distance, there's tight schedule, but you make yourself available, including those who are joining us online. Thank you so much for making your time. Today, we are glad to share that we have 360 participants today, and we have from overseas as well, from China, Japan, Australia, Vietnam, and South Africa. So we have quite a diverse representation of participants, so which is very important as we want to establish the ecosystem in Malaysia to push forward for this agenda. So just to quickly recap, I was very fortunate and privileged to be invited to the EY Petronas Co-Creation Workshop. I think that was really a great initiative because it's good to kickstart and gather everyone in the space to brainstorm on the initiatives and how we can move forward. So let's not stop the conversation there and continue. And the objective is definitely aligned with what we want to achieve by today's forum. So you can see today's forum, we really hope to heighten the awareness on neurodiversity, which just now we have heard from our distinguished guests on their refreshing perspectives on how we should look at neurodiversity. And it's so amazing to hear on the success stories as well as how we can together learn ways to create a neuro-inclusive workplace. So just now we heard from them about not just about the job fit, also the manager fit, and also the environment. So it's everything together. And lastly, how can we actually together build up an effective neurodiversity ecosystem? So why does this matter? Again, recap. Hiran told us just now. Okay, and I think that this is a research that 1 in 5 people is considered as neurodivergent. Even in our midst, just now Hiran shared that he has ADHD. Tracy, she herself diagnosed as autistic 3 years ago. So it could be in our midst, it could be among our colleagues. So it's time to look at this seriously. It's even though some company you feel that you haven't started, but in fact, in your company, you already have. So it's important to look at this. So embracing neurodiversity at work is not about ticking the box. So what matters is neurodiversity is embracing the differences. So again, I like what Hiran has shared just now. It's not about viewing their deficits, what they can't do, their disabilities, putting aside the diagnosis. We look at the differences, look at the strengths that they can bring to the companies. So this is the shift in thinking that we need to adopt from today onwards. So please remember your homework. Okay, share with how many people after today's session? Yes, remember these 5. Okay, you can make it to 10. All right? Yes, let's not stop here, including those who are joining us online. Okay? So current issue we can see, not just in Malaysia, we can see anywhere else, that we have seen that some companies that wanted to hire, but it seems like the supply cannot meet the demands. So what causes that issues? So it could be lack of job coaches, which we emphasize a lot on the needs of job coaches to bridge the current gap, and the readiness of the neurodivergence. So how can the societies, the government agencies, the whole education system, and can bridge the current gap and to better prepare the neurodivergence, and most importantly, the workplace readiness. Are we ready to embrace them, to tap on their strengths? And the whole readiness of the neurodiversity ecosystem, which is all of us here. Are we ready? And even though you may not be ready, start with small steps first. So it is a small step that will lead to the giant achievement. So time to connect the dots. Everyone here today, we have NGOs, we have universities, we have government agencies today, from Social Welfare Department, from IKBM, from Perkeso. So it's good that we work together to connect the dots. Like some NGOs, you have done an amazing job in doing training, in preparing the neurodivergent individuals. Universities, okay, perhaps you have some services, but it's not everyone have come forward to identify themselves as neurodivergent students. So it's important for us to all consolidate the resources and to share with each other what we have. That's how we can actually kind of refer people to the right spot and to get the right support. So it's important that we get to know later during lunch. Don't rush off. Try your best to network with everyone here, as many as possible, at least 5 people that you do not know. This is how we can actually get information and we can share it to other people. So even at Enabling Academy, even some cases that we maybe our intake is full, we cannot take in, we can still refer to other centers who provide the same services. We do not want them to be idle at home, there's no support, there's no services. So it's important to bridge the gap. Today, we understand that they are not all who have heard of us before, especially those who are joining us online. So we just want to take this opportunity to just briefly share about what Enabling Academy is. So basically, our core services is we provide a 3-month fully sponsored complimentary employment transition program for the neurodivergent individuals. Previously, we have been focusing on autistic individuals, but this year onwards, the good news is we are officially opening up to other categories as well, which is ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia. Okay, so these are the group that we are also extending now, and we will provide the job coach support. Okay, everything free of charge, sponsored by Yayasan Gamuda. And after the graduates, they completed our program, there's a EA Connect. So it's like a social support group where they can connect with their peers again, even though they have entered into workplace. And we also kind of equip employers. So here, if any companies would like to conduct any training, EA is here to provide the neurodiversity awareness training. Even for those online, even if you are from overseas and all, feel free to look up for us and email us. We are able to customize. Just as how we also partnership with our partners, Long Ai Long Le Inclusion Factory from China, we also conduct workshop for them as well. So for practitioners workshop, this is where I have mentioned. So it's not just about working with employers and supporting the neurodivergent individuals. It's also important to support the practitioners as well. So we do know there's a lot of practitioners out there doing great job, but it's just that sometimes they don't have enough resources or training. So we also provide 2 half-day practitioners workshop as well to further equip and share with them how we actually be the bridge between the neurodivergent individuals and the employers, and to further equip them, because we can't rely on Enabling Academy alone. How can we have greater impact is by impacting other to have more employment transition program nationwide so that more neurodivergent individuals will benefit from this. So, a sneak peek here for corporate companies. Actually, today we are really hoping to get this card ready, but unfortunately we can't get it ready in time, but we will surely share with you when it is ready. So what is this about? We created this Discoveries card because we understand that usually in the neurodivergent individuals that work in the corporates, there are a lot of times that maybe supervisors, line managers, they have difficulties to know what are some of the conversations that I can have with my neurodivergent colleague, and how can I progress these neurodivergent colleagues further. So these cards will be very useful for you to get to know your neurodivergent colleagues better, and also to plan about how can this person progress further in terms of their career progression. So we have like 4 sections. So we have personal, we'll have like going deeper, empowerment, and then after that we have like progression. So once it is ready, we will share with you, okay? Especially will be very helpful for those who are working very closely with the neurodivergent colleagues, like the supervisor, the buddies, to have a good conversation, meaningful conversation with them. So, just one glance, I won't go in depth in everything, but everyone here, we have a role to play, and there are so many things that we can work together. So let's not stop as just conversation. This is how EA can journey with you. Maybe if some EA may not have, but we can still connect you with the relevant organizations who do this as well. So for corporates, we are really hoping that we can go hand in hand, continue to provide job opportunities, internship, or even if you can't offer job opportunities, you can provide upskilling training. More than happy, like PwC, they come in to train our trainees on digital literacy, on personal branding. So you can come in to offer your expertise as well, yeah, and be a mock interviewer to our trainees, or even conduct assessment on in terms of their IT skill. There are so many areas that we can collaborate. So you can extend this to other NGOs here as well. For universities, yes, we are really hoping to bridge the gap by actually conducting more neurodiversity awareness workshops so that the lecturers will know how to guide the neurodivergent colleagues. And perhaps in the future, we need more job coaches, so we need more psychology graduates who is willing to pursue this as a career. And NGOs and private sectors as well. So it's important for us to go hand in hand, and government agencies who are here, the representative today, continue to promote about the incentive, the job coach. I'm sure not everyone is aware. So it's important to continue to keep the message across. So of course there's other group as well, health professionals, parent support group, self-advocacy group. Yeah, in fact, through EY Petronas, I got to know about Neurodiversity. How many of you have heard of Neurodiversity? So this is an amazing self-advocacy group. They themselves are professionals with ADHD, with autism. I get to see people, psychologists who is with autism, and occupational therapists with ADHD and all. So it's really amazing to kind of continue to network and find out more. So we shall not just listen. It's time to just open up your phone, scan the QR code, and put it into action by scanning and then fill in the form. At the same time, please do write in some of the feedback about this forum. So we really appreciate your feedback to see how we can actually improve further and how we can support you further. So just take about like 2 minutes, 1 or 2 minutes to just quickly fill in this form. Oh, the link. Oh, blocked already. Maybe someone can help me to move the Gujen. Thank you. Thank you, Samuel. Okay, just 1 or 2 minutes to fill it. In what area that you think you are interested in, and also what is some of the feedback for this today forum, and what is some key takeaways? For online participants, you can click on the link to participate as well. Whether you are in other countries, you can make a difference in other countries. So you can join the local organizations and the ecosystem there. Or you can feel free to connect to us. Okay, you can continue later on because our next representative, he will need to rush off soon. So I'm trying to wrap up my session really quickly before I pass to him. So everyone, do you recognize what is this for those who are in Malaysia? Hiran, allow me to quote you. I really like this. This is by Hiran. He shared this during the EY Petronas co-creation workshop. So apart from those who are involved in the workshop, you are not allowed to answer. The rest, you can feel free to answer. Okay, this is our coat of arms, right? So who knows what does the text below means? Anyone can remember? Sudah lupa, already forgotten. Anyone know what does the text mean? Anyone can remember? Yes, I heard something. Persekutu? I hear something like persekutu. Yes. Oh, yes. Give him an applause. Persekutu bertambah mutu. Okay, what does it mean? Okay, so basically, unity is what makes us stronger. So together, we can make a difference in neurodiversity movement. So let's make an impact, and congratulations everyone, you are part of the neurodiversity movement. Give yourself an applause. Thank you. Pass back the time to Emily.
Thank you, Grace. Now that you're here in Gamuda Gardens, how do you feel about it? Doesn't it look very serene and peaceful? For more detail, I shall invite our Mr. Andrew Tan Kai Seng, our General Manager of Gamuda Gardens, to share about its uniqueness. Do you get any discount now?
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Andrew. I am the General Manager of Gamuda Gardens. Today it is with great honors that I represent the entire team of Gamuda Gardens to welcome our Yayasan Gamuda, Enabling Academy, esteemed guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm very happy to share with you our townships since you are here. Maybe some of you maybe it's the first time, maybe most of you it's first time to come to gardens. But however, you only explore in this area because I think you spend the whole mornings in this area, right? That is just the frictions of the entire 810 acres of land. All right? So we have more things for you to explore. So I'm glad to know that some of you actually register for our exclusive tour later, starting from 2:30. I'm really happy with that. Please, you are welcome to visit us. You know, the rest of the land in our township is a vibrant community here. You can go to our sales gallery, enjoy a cup of coffee, mocha, or whatsoever, free of charge. Don't worry, just take it. All right? Then you can take the buggy drive. You can tell all our salespersons or our team in the sales gallery to bring you all around to go and visit. Gamuda Gardens is a nicely crafted township development with a lot of lakes. We got 5 lakes in our township here. We got what do you call that? Lots of trees. Okay, we have planted a lot of trees here with the natural trees and also the trees that we planted, about 7,000 trees here. But you see, the whole area is so serene and comfortable. But you know that we also have a vision to plant 1 million trees in all over our township here. All right, including the Gamuda's lands townships. So Gamuda Gardens is going to plant another 130,000 of trees in the next 2 years to 3 years times. So after 2 years, you come back here, Gamuda Gardens, you can see the whole environment is even cooler because we are living in hot countries, right? So tree is very important. That's why we make our township so comfortable for all our community here. All right. So other than that, this place is also meant for a lot of our families' activities. We have a lot of family activities for people. Why? During Saturday, Sundays, right? People love to come over for jogging. They come for jogging, they bring their kids here, they can have our Exploria activities such as our donut boats. We have a Solar Express. With, do you know that recently we just opened our fun park and also Skyline Luge? Skyline Luge. Okay, this is just recently opened already, since Christmas last year. And then over the last 2 weeks, I think our Raya celebrations, there are really a lot of people actually visiting our place here. So, we do hope that you come. If today you don't have time to enjoy all these facilities, don't worry. You can come back anytime because we open daily. All right, except Wednesday, we close for the Skyline Rouge and Fun Park. Today also, we are going to, for those people who have registered for our exclusive tour, right? We have decided, Gamuda Garden have decided to sponsor those who have joined us 2:30 later. Not only to go for a tour in the parks, but also we'll bring you to the fun parks and take the rides on the Ferris wheel. Okay? All right. This is, thank you. So because it's all about experience. All right? It's all about experience. Come here, enjoy, see our sceneries, feel it, okay? We don't buy your property, it's okay, no worry. But just come and visit us. Okay, we are more than, because we are a proud developers that we have created a nice place for our community in this place. All right, so I think not much I want to say, but I think my descriptions of the entire Gamuda Gardens will be best described with a short video clip. All right, can we have the video clip to let everybody see it? Thank you. So I hope everybody enjoyed the videos. Just a little bit more. As you can see, right, just now the last part of the video is actually the retail shops. The retail shop is called Garden Square. Garden Square is going to complete in another 6 months' time, which by end of this year, we are going to open this retail mall for you all. So please come do more often to come and enjoy it. Other than that, do you know that actually Skyline Lucia, the whole world in the entire globe, right? We only have 8 places have it. So they are originated from New Zealand. So they have 2 places have this facility in New Zealand, 2 in Korea, all right, 2 in Canada, and then the nearest to us is actually in Singapore, Sentosa Island. If you happen to visit Sentosa Island before, then you see the same facility, the Skyline Luge is there. And world number 8 place, we are very proud to announce they actually reside in Gamuda Gardens, Kuala Lumpur here. And a little bit of tips for you all. Tips, if you scared of hot sun, you feel that you maybe will melt down under the hot sun. So please come at night ride because they have night rides during Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I myself enjoyed it so much. Night rides, no sun, schooling. So you can try as many times as you want. All right. So with that, I thanks you all again for coming to Gamuda Gardens. So hope everybody is well, healthy, and that's all for me. Thank you so much.
They always said a hungry man is a hangry man. And to avoid any hangry man, now for the moment we've all been waiting for, lunch. Feel free to network or catch up with those around you. And if any of you have any more questions, you can liaise with us for more info. Thank you and enjoy.